Good evening. This is April 25th. This is Edward and Ann, and you are here at the Kitchen Table Talk. And tonight we're going to talk a little bit more about the shape of things to come. As I was telling Ann earlier this evening, and I've mentioned before in some of the words, God has been showing His sons for a number of years now those things which will come to pass. Not only the judgments and that type of thing, but insight into what the day of the kingdom is going to be like, how the sons will function, the different capacities that will come with sonship. And so we've had glimmers of that over 30 years. Many things that we've seen, I know, and many others have seen, of things that are going to come to pass. And, you look in the Word and it says, "Eye has not seen, nor has ear heard, that which God has prepared for those who love Him." And that certainly is our common ground within the heart of all the sons, is a deep, intense love for the Father and for the Lord Jesus Christ. There's no doubt about it. That is the unspoken drive that propels us forward, is our love for the Lord. And like Paul, who said, I would much rather go and be with the Lord. It's far better, but for your sakes I remain. And Paul had that intense love and desire to be with the Lord. So we do as well. And yet we know we've been sent for this time, all of the sons. I know Ann and I have gone before the Lord a number of times over the years. Well, maybe not a number, a few times. And said, "Lord, are we done yet? Can we come home?" And of course, always the answer is, "No, you're not done. Not till you finish what I sent you to do." So we kind of laugh. I think we all get a laugh out of that one because we knew the answer anyway. Tonight we're going to talk about communication and communication in the kingdom, which is a word that was brought, I believe, in the first book that we put out, The Manifestation of the Sons of God. What's so interesting is in the realm of the kingdom, we're only now just beginning to learn and just now beginning to see elements that exist, that frame the world of spirit, that are part of the burgeoning reality that the sons are moving into. Because you realize as you move out of the realm of the natural plane into the realm of the spirit progressively more and more, as that becomes your anchor point, everything about that which has determined your reality is shifting. You're no longer defined by the elements of the natural plane, but the principles that govern the realm of spirit begin to come into play and begin to replace those principles that govern the natural plane for the sons. So, if you abide in the natural plane, you're limited by time and space and distance and a lot of other causalities. But when you move into the plane of spirit, where that progressively becomes more and more your basis point from which you function, the principles of time and space are no longer valid. And so everything begins to shift. And you begin to enter into the realities of the Melchizedek ministry, who had neither a beginning nor an end. And as much as that is the truth for all of the sons, it hasn't been a realized truth because the sons are still transitioning out of the natural plane into the plane of spirit. So this evening, we're just going to explore a little bit more outside the box. I love just taking a step outside the box, jump off the cliff, and see where we go. And so there's a lot that I would like to say, and we'll just kind of touch on certain elements because our paradigm, as I said in the last word, is shifting. And it's time that God is going to begin to bring to pass those things He's been revealing for some time now about the functioning of the sons of God. And that was always a promise that He would bring the sons into a functional relationship within the realm of spirit. Communication is something that we understand more and more, but we're dealing with something that is so deep that the degree of understanding and insight that we have is still very limited. We understand that communication is far exceeds what vocally comes out of your mouth. Communication is very much dealing with the realm of frequency and vibration and energy. We know that you can send an email and impart within that email the energy of what you are. Whether you have a bad attitude, a good attitude, whatever, it can be easily conveyed through email. And you would think, well, how is that possible? You're not even talking to someone, but something is sent. And so that is all part of the realm of communication. And more, we will enter into a plane where you will not need to communicate along the traditional lines that you've communicated. If you're married with your spouse, or just in general terms within the realm of spirit, I know that within the realm of spirit, so much communication is conveyed just by transference. It's just, someone doesn't have to come up and verbally say something. They just know. You can stand in front of someone in the spirit, and you just know. It's very clear. It just comes through very clear. You know. Communication happens not under the traditional concept that is very limiting, because vocal words is it's kind of like very basic level of conveyance of thoughts and ideas. What we are as people involves communication almost constantly. It's like, how Christ moved. He didn't need to talk to someone. He just knew. Someone would come into his midst and he would know, because it was an unspoken level of communication and insight and grasp. And so, as we move progressively further, in many ways, the need for the traditional form of communication is going to be replaced with just a state of knowing. And the energy that you are and the energy that another is just conveyed. It's like something that happened many years ago, was that when I was caught in the spirit, I guess you would say it was kind of like a meeting point where many would gather in the realm of spirit before they were then sent off to where they were to go. And these were people that, for the most part, still were living in the body, but their spirits were caught up to almost like a meeting room from which they were then sent to, various things. So as I watched, I would see people appear, and then they would disappear as they would move on. But what my point is that a lady appeared, someone I apparently knew, and all we had to do was just reach out and touch hands for a moment, just a moment of time, and there was an exchange of knowledge and energy and communication that happened instantly. And the same can be said even to the realm of fairies and angels. Just being in proximity, the energy exchange happens between, yourself and another, or just touching. So the whole realm of communication is mystifying, because communication here again is not the conveyance of thoughts and ideas as much as it is an impartation of who you are and who the other is. And it's conveyance or an impartation of spirit. So in two of these instances that we had walked through, there was more than just a conveyance of thoughts, images, ideas, but there was an impartation or transference of spirit. And what happened, of course, what happens when there's transference of spirit? You change. Because as you receive that, shall we say, communication, for lack of a better word, that changes you in that moment to some degree. And so you leave that moment in time with a greater understanding and an impartation that came from that individual, from that realm or dimension. And even though you may not yet be aware of it within the scope of your consciousness physically, your spirit has received and retained something that will manifest to you more clearly down the road. But it's interesting to think about. You ever watch any of the old Star Trek movies, and you would see how they would go, and they would push a button or whatever it is, and they would dissolve and then reappear somewhere else. And, that's all kind of fun and interesting, but there's an element to that has a certain level of truth. Something I saw a number of years ago, and it has to do with sound and frequency. And here again, these are things that will come to pass more and more as the sons begin to enter into their calling and to their ministry. But literally, and here again, this is in the realm of communication, you could sing to another from a different world and reach out to them. And that song or frequency or vibration, if it touched them, they could in turn harmonize with that frequency and literally travel back through a portal and be right there with you, no matter where the world or dimension is. It's very interesting. And I know that we're just rambling. And really the point of this talk is not so much to boast about anything, because there's certainly nothing to boast about, but it is just to bring an impartation that there's a lot coming. There's much that God has prepared for the sons to walk in. And eye hasn't seen, ear hasn't heard, and it hasn't entered into our minds because it's way outside the box. I mean, how can you imagine some of these things when you don't even know enough to imagine it in the first place. But the day of release and the day of freedom is coming to the sons. It's approaching. And with it, a whole realm of communication and travel, an ability to communicate and impart one to another, to create just by virtue of your essence, and to literally travel. Some would say, well, they could call it bilocation, the ability to just do, the Stephen transportation method, you just kind of reappear. And certainly that's an aspect or an element that is very true. But there are other elements of communication and of travel that the sons will enter into experiencing, and things that we don't even understand, things that we don't even know exist that are coming. And the ability to literally, for the sake of trying to explain this, literally being able to duplicate a frequency or sound that came from someone else in a whole different world or dimension, and replicate that within yourself and follow that back to the initial source. So it's I know that these are just concepts and theories a little bit, because it's really fresh ground. But the point is, the sons will not be limited. And all of creation seeks to have an exchange and a connection with the sons as they're coming forth. And more we will enter into levels of communication and impartation with the whole realm of spirit that is going to be exciting, and it will definitely redefine reality for us over and over again. But I know that the different ones are reaching out to the sons during this time. And as such, the more we become aware of them, the more we will be able to tune in and follow their frequency or chord or wavelength, whatever, right back to where they are, and be able to literally move from one plane of reality to another. So there's much coming. I mean, we could sit here and talk for hours about things that we've seen and things that are coming for the sons, ways of moving in the spirit, of stepping outside of all the limitations we've known. It's pretty amazing. And this is just a short little talk this evening to kind of throw a few things out, just kind of anoint you to realize that there's a lot coming, and the life of the sons is going to change dramatically, and hopefully sooner than later. Ann and I send our blessings to all of you tonight. Amen.